because of who he was following, how his behavior was. And some of us, because we haven't always had a chance to sit down, if you haven't actually had a chance to sit down and learn from someone one-on-one, then you learn the knowledge, but the etiquettes of putting it across are lacking. So you find the people, oh, that brother's really knowledgeable. When they speak to people, oh, sit down, do this, do that. And they quote the verses, they're correct. But the way that they're talking to you, idiot, sit down. What are you doing there? Why are you in the corner? Sit down. Shut up. What? You, sit down. You. What are you doing up? Sit down. You, you're sitting down. Get up. And they're telling you all these different things, and the people are feeling, subhanallah. And that's why sometimes the people that aren't really strong on their Islam think, boy, if that's what practicing is, I don't want to do it. Because I remember that guy before, and he was way better than he is now. And sometimes parents will say, I liked it better when you weren't praying, when you had no beard, because at least we could manage you. Now we want to choke you. Because the way you are now, you're worse than you were before. How did that happen? The reason how that happened is he didn't have a source to take the knowledge from. So when he's sitting and he's learning and he's taking the knowledge, he's watching the actions of the person that's teaching him. He's looking at their day-to-day interaction with other people. And you pick up those things. So if there's any good in what I've said, then maybe you'll pick up some. I hope you don't get this accent. Don't follow that. But whatever there was good, you'll pick that up though. The next thing we learn from Abdur-Rahman Ibn Awf is, again, he had a very strong sense of his fundamentals. He always wanted to get his fundamentals down first, which was the 5 times salah. So he was very punctual. They said about him, and also Ali ibn Abi Talib, that right when they looked and they saw the sun just go straight below the horizon, the last part of the sun, the adhan for Maghrib was made straight away. They were so punctual. And some of us, we might not be as punctual as we could be. The Prophet ﷺ, one of the companions said, Ma afdalul iman, what is the best of iman? Prophet ﷺ answered him. Now some people here might be thinking, well, it must be money. It's the best of iman because you become Muslim and then you start stacking up your cash. No. Okay, it's got to be jihad. You go, you get the kafir, you cut his head off, and jihad. Right? It's got to be jihad. It's got to be. Some people are saying, let's get married because you get as many wives as you can. You have a whole lot of children. That makes the ummah bigger. Right? But what he said is, as-salatu li-waqtiha. Salah on time. That's the best of iman. So after you become Muslim, the best thing is to try to offer the prayer at its time. So that hadith in Sahih al-Jami' is very clear. And then after that, you're thinking, okay, but after that was jihad and cutting the heads off. No. After that was birrul walidain, showing righteousness to your parents. After that was number 2. And then the third part was, yes, the jihad fi sabilillah. But it was superseded by salah on its time and righteousness to your parents. So that hadith in Sahih al-Jami' characterizes Abdur-Rahman Ibn Awf as a person. Characterizes him. The next point that I think you can learn from Abdur-Rahman Ibn Awf was attention to detail. Attention to detail. It's very easy to look at big things and to know what's going on. But few people can look at small things and understand the bigger picture. We used to be told a quote on the West Coast of, there are 3 types of people in this world. Those that don't know what happened, those who wonder what happened, and people who make things happen. And there's some truth in that proverb. Because you're either wondering what happened or what's going on in the news today, what's happening. You don't know what happened, I don't know. Or you're one of those that's making the news. And so what you should look at, and what I advise you to look at, is to start thinking about, what can I do differently? What can I do that's out of the box? Because Abdur-Rahman Ibn Awf, he was a salesman and a merchant par excellence. No one was able to top his way of selling. He was amazing. He actually made back all the money that had been frozen in his accounts in Mecca. He made that back in Medina in 1 year. And when he came back to Mecca, he put that with his other money. And so now he had double, and he was giving even more charity. With the technology that's out here today, there's no reason why the young people and the youth here of today need to be struggling for a bite to eat. You've got so many opportunities in front of you. There was a young kid, you can look him up, I can't remember his name, but it hit the newspapers and it's probably still there if you look for it. He was a 21-year-old kid from Paterson, New Jersey. He became a millionaire by just a number of investments that he made in some companies. He became a millionaire. And they asked him, because he was on the news and he's just there, this fresh-faced 21-year-old kid, you know, just the big eyes, the pimples, the spiked hair, because you have to have that. And he said, what do you plan on doing with yourself with your newfound wealth? He said, first of all, as of this moment, I'm retired. Meaning, I'm never going to work. You'll never see me flipping hamburgers for anyone. That's the translation of what he was saying. And he said, number two, I have some more investments to make. So you see, not only was he saying, okay, now I've got the wealth, I have this, I have that, but he's also remembering, now I have to keep the process rolling. I have to keep the process rolling. Some of you have talents that I don't know what they are, and you have talents that are more than what I've got. You know things that I could never know. I came at the beginning of the computer age, when the screen was black with the orange cursor and you had the orange writing, and you used to not be able to turn the computer off because if you did, it took 4 hours to boot up. I came from that generation. I came from the generation where when all the computers were connected, and if you gave the command for one computer to shut down, all the computers on the dock shut down because they weren't separate. That generation was 1985, 1986. Obviously, I'm dating myself because no one here was alive then, exception of a few. I see some wispy hair on a few heads. But you were born into technology. So for you, this is all second nature. And there are so many ways of innovating and doing different amazing things in which you can do what you love, but also make a decent living to make money. Some of you don't, if you did things right, you wouldn't have to worry about ever going to work again. YouTube, if you swung the advertising right. Some of us like typing. Some of you do really good videos. Some of you are graphics geniuses. If you played things right, you'd never ever have to work again, except from doing the work that you do from home. Then you could set your own schedule, dress how you want. If you were going to go to Jummah, you could go to Jummah when you want, and you wouldn't have to come to your boss with your hat in your hand and say, I was wondering, and you're wringing your hands, and you're thinking, is he going to say no? Is he going to say yeah? I wonder what he's going to say. Would you mind if I went to Jummah? And the boss says, well, why don't you pray in your head? Because we need you here. We're short-staffed. You wouldn't have to have those conversations, you see? You'd be in a safer position. So that way you wouldn't have to worry when you went and did your work. You'd be fine. You wouldn't have to worry about, I wonder what my boss is going to do about this if I ask for a raise, if I ask for this. You can get paid for what you're really worth. Right? And then finally, it's like what a Muslim brother said to me. He said, I'm worth however much I can make, not what someone gives me as a number. So some of you can perform far ahead what I could ever think to do. So be like Abdur-Rahman Ibn Awf and use that knowledge. The final point is this one. Abdur-Rahman Ibn Awf, no matter what, always stuck to the truth, even if it was against his own benefit. So when the confusion happened after the death of Omar and people wanted to make him the Khalifa, he said, no, not me. Remember the prophecies, remember this, remember that. Some people, if he said, we want to put you forward, like, yeah, I am rather, I'm qualified.